Oh man, look at that wall, that is bare, isn't it? That almost looks like a placeholder. I really did struggle making these rocky, natural outdoor areas. I felt like the Doom engine... I felt like I was fighting against the Doom engine, honestly. I don't know how Zan feels about that, but for me, it felt like the Doom engine just doesn't want to make rocky, natural-looking outdoor environments. It's such a struggle, because you can't really do room over room properly. As soon as you've got a whole cave, it's very hard to do much above it. Hold on, I'll just fly on here for a second. But this is actually through a portal up here to get to this other bit. You can see where the portal is, there's a seam along the rock here. It's all an illusion. So I've been making a Doom map each year in the summer as a way of practicing level design, and I felt like I wanted to make a Hedon map because Hedon maps are a lot more like the kind of maps that I want to make in the end anyway, and I need more practice at doing those kinds of more narrative experiences where there's more of a real setting, and it's less abstract, it's more like a real world place, you know? And there's dialogue with characters and things that you just don't have in a Doom map normally. And I had the idea of putting a map between map 7 and 8 in Hedon ever since I first played it actually, but I never thought I'd actually do it. I also had an idea of, a separate idea of having like a town that you'd go to, and then there'd be like a hell version of the town separate to the regular version, like a mirror image version, sort of like the Upside Down, I guess, in Stranger Things or whatever, but hell. I didn't actually think about combining those ideas until quite a long time after I'd started this map. There was a real chance this map was just going to be the mine, and the mine would be the main part of the map, and then you'd carry on up the road, and there was never going to be a hell segment. And man, I'm obviously really glad I did the hell segment in the end, because I think you can all agree that really makes the map what it is. Anyway, I wanted this little abandoned shack place to be the first sort of story beat. You come along here and it shows you how deserted this area is, how no one's been here in a long time. This place is completely abandoned. And you can see the snow has piled up in the fireplace, this big chimney. Just how long it's been since anyone's been here. Let's take this little guy with us on our journey. Hello. Ooh. That was close. Got him. Alright, we've got a companion. I actually didn't build this room until quite late on. I kept putting it off for some reason. I'd have just this empty block here that I'd be running past when I was playing test it every time, and for some reason, it just took me ages to get round to. They used to have a higher ceiling, and there used to be a balcony up there. Sort of, you'd come up these stairs and there'd be like a overlook down here into the room. But I don't know, it didn't feel claustrophobic enough. It didn't feel like you're in a cave anymore, and so I blocked that off and added this tunnel instead. I'm really glad I did add this tunnel, because I think the view from out here is way more interesting looking than the view is from down here. And it was just a real nice discovery. This looks much more boring in comparison. These would have been the last guys to teleport through the teleporters before they got shut down at the end of map 7. Here's the pentagram maybe that guy came from. He didn't make it very far. Now, first of all, when I designed this bit, you had to go around here. This was the idea, that you had to shimmy around this edge like you're playing Tomb Raider. And the main idea here is just to slow the player down. I felt like if you can just run straight to your objective, then I really wanted the player to feel like they had the sense they were going on a journey, and if you can just run it at full speed in Doom, then you don't get the sense you've really had to struggle along a road. And I added this snow, you could get up here, and this was an accident. And at first I thought, well, I'll block it off so the player has to go for, you know, around the desired route. But actually, it's obviously much better if they have a choice. And if you come up here, it's a nice view. Again, from high up. And we see the bridge has fallen. A lot of players came to this and said, oh, I'm going to have to fix the bridge. Nah. Again, it's just to slow the player down, really. It's just a little jumping. And it's to show how abandoned the area is and how seldom used this road is. So we have a little jumping section here, which used to be much harder. I kept making this easier and easier over time. Because, it just doesn't need to be hard. That's not the point, is it, really? We're just here to sort of give the impression that we're going off the main road and having to climb our way around. It doesn't need to be a legitimate chance of the player falling. And we come into this cave area. This used to be open to the sky here for a long time, which was a silly idea in hindsight. Because we're building up, in this section we're building up to the big reveal when we come out of the cave and we see the open area with the tavern, and in order for that big reveal to work, you can't have just come from the outside, you need to have come from a cave on the inside. Ideally, this would be much more claustrophobic, actually, thinking about it, and darker. If I make an update, maybe I would do something like that, I don't know. Got another frozen gentleman here. I remember Wesley, when he played this, he tried to use this guy to do a skip. He's a speedrunner, he wanted to see if he could get up here. And I knew he'd do that, so I prevented it. This guy has a monster blocking line here, you can't push him up. Otherwise you would be able to get up there. And I wouldn't mind, honestly, if speedrunners did that. It just happens to be that they would miss the title card for the map where we drop the, we named, you know, for the big reveal and the name comes up. If it wasn't for the fact that it has skipped this scripted sort of title card, then I'd have let them climb up there. And there it is, the Gaudy Goblin. And we're back on the road. It was important to me that we'd come underneath part of the structure here. I'm not sure, it just makes you feel like you're more like it's more integrated with the road and the building. You almost feel like you've already got a relationship with the building before you get there, because you've been coming so close to it and you've gone under it, you know? It just makes the 3D space feel a lot more connected and intimate to me. Same again here, you have to come under here. And watch your step. I imagine in the past there was a bit more path here, but it's been falling away over the years and no one's been able to repair it, or had the will to. You can climb up those, by the way. This was the first custom sprite that I made, put the snow on the statue. That was an exciting part for me, because up until that point, you know, I'd just been using the stock textures for everything, and I don't know, it was like a new outlet for creativity all of a sudden. I could do so much more. I could put snow on the roof of the tiles up there and make this little sign. That one I made quite near the end, this one I made right at the beginning. Yeah, let's see what I mean about the cliffs. It looks so plain. I really do think... Oh my god, what have I done? Okay, you didn't see anything. Nothing happened. You can't prove anything. You can't prove anything. He didn't see it. Okay, yeah, so anyway, this poor Minotaur, he's getting no help from the orcs inside. We've got able-bodied bear warriors in there. No one's helping. There was actually a time when, once you came back from hell, he would have actually finished his work and cleared this, and this road was clear. That was all implemented with portals and stuff, and I had to change it back because it just felt like such an anti-climax. You'd come back from doing all that work and the road was clear, and it was like you just felt like, well, why did I bother doing all of that? If I could have just waited for him to finish and I got through in just the same amount of time, or quicker even. So I had to change it back. It just felt so silly. Even though there's quite a lot of silly stuff in this map anyway. I mean, it's a much sillier experience than the main base Hedon game. You know, we've got Dungeons and Dragons games and cult newsletters, things like that. I can't help myself. And the museum's obviously filled with jokes. Anyway, let's get inside the tavern, I suppose. This was the very first area that I made. Hello, Riva. The very first area I made. In fact, I made this downstairs area more than 1 year before I made the upstairs area. This was one of the last things I made. So this, to me, feels like the beginning and the end of an era when I'm in here. The reason, by the way, that it took me so long to get around to making the upstairs was because of the portal. The fact that it's through a portal. There's a vertical portal here, I showed it earlier, and had a real mental block. Because I felt as soon as I bite the bullet and make the portal and start building the upstairs, I won't be able to move any of the cliffs anymore. Everything needs to be exactly where I want it to be before I make the portal. Otherwise, I'll be screwed. And that's why I put it off so long. In the end, I actually worked out a way of moving the edge of the portal in both the bottom version and the top version, so I could continue to adjust the cliffs, which was great. If anybody that is ever doing anything similar to this and wants to know how I did that, I guess I'll just ask. I'll try and explain it. And okay, this door, this balcony, this to me was really important because it ties this indoor area back together with the road that we came from. I think without this, it becomes very easy to forget where you are in relation to where you've been before. You feel like you could be underground, or you've been turned around, you don't know which way's north, which way's the road, but when you come out here, you're reminded, oh, here's the road that I came down. I walked under this before. And to me, that's really important. Probably most people, that sort of thing doesn't matter. And also, like, there's stone and there's building, and the back of the building becomes the stone. We go into the stone at the back of the building. I love the way the orcs in Hedon build their buildings into the stone, you know? And then we're back in building, and well, the backs of these rooms here are inside the cave, and this part is the wooden structure that's been built. Alright, let's go in the bathroom real quick. This is actually the first room I finished, was this little sauna area, bath area. And I love it. I love this little room. It's so small and cozy. And I love that you can see out through the fireplace. There's something about that I feel like, the kind of openness and like you feel like they must be a really comfortable, tight-knit community to have this sort of openness about these kinds of areas. They're not prudish or I don't know, uptight, I guess. The dwarf landlady, she's got a custom sprite, custom haircut. I wanted her to be a dwarf who's a goblin enthusiast. You see she's got like a green streak dyed in her hair, and down in her bedroom she's got a load of goblin stuff, and she runs a tavern called the Gaudy Goblin, right? I mean, I suppose the only reason I had a dwarf in the first place was because that's the sprite that was available, right? Alright, let's... Okay, so why did I even make this Gaudy Goblin Tavern? Basically, there are tons of taverns and places you go in the Hedon game where they've all just been destroyed, everyone's been killed, and you find them and I just felt like, man, I wish I could see what one of these places was like when it hadn't been destroyed, you know, back when it was being used by the orcs just to hang out after work and rest. And I felt it was a real shame in Hedon that you didn't get to see something like that, and so I made it. Here it is. And the idea is this outpost, they haven't had word that the invasion has taken place. They don't know that Volk has been invaded at all here. They're so isolated, and I also found it funny, the idea that Zan, because she's a silent protagonist, she can't actually tell them. She just, you know, there just isn't. It's a bit silly, obviously, but she can't just say, "Oh God, Valk's under attack." Anyway, a lot of these sprites were injured, and I had to heal them. This one had bandages around her belly, and this one had bandages around her face. And I'm quite pleased, actually. I was worried this one would look like half of her face had been painted by one person and the other half had been painted by someone else, but I think it looks great, actually. I'm very happy with that. This one's got a story. This is the Crystal Curator from the first map of Bloodright, map 11, I guess. When she falls down and you've got to get her the mana potion. And not many people know this, but actually, if you hit her in that map, she dies. And you get her lance, and you get a scroll of a scroll that gets you through the door, which is something speedrunners do in that map. And I only found this out by accident when I was in here, and I just accidentally, I don't know, I was doing jump kicks or something, and she just died. And I thought, this is terrible. I can't have this. But for a start, if you were to acquire the Cry Lance at this point, it would completely ruin the first encounter. I'll show you that later, but what I mean by that, I'll go over that when it comes up. But also, it's just the storyline-wise, you can't just have Zan murder this poor orc and all the rest of them. What, have to write new lines of dialogue for them saying, "I can't believe you just killed Sarah"? What, you know, what's happening here? That's not going to fly. But so anyway, I asked Zan if there was some way I could make her invincible, and he explained there was some flag I could set, so she's invincible now. But there were some people who said that it would be cool if you could steal her Cry Lance, and I can't be giving the player a Cry Lance, but I left a little reference to it here. If you press E on her a couple of times, it says you consider yoinking her Cry Lance, but think better of it. That's a little nod to the people who had that little idea. Oh my god, you know what, it's already been a lot of time. I'm going to cut this off here. The next bit will be in the next episode. I'll talk about the upstairs and then we'll go into the mine, I think. I'll see you in the next one.